This is Matt and his dog Buddy. Hey Matt, do you know where your drinking water comes from? Well, true, but in fact, before it arrives at your tap and before it's treated, our water comes from aquifers, rivers, and lakes. Municipal tap water is safe and reliable. Still, it's just as important to keep the sources of our water abundant and as free from pollutants as possible.
That we all live in a watershed. Right now, you might be thinking that a watershed is a shed in your backyard, but a watershed is actually something much more different than that.
A watershed is an area where all the rain and the snow melt flow into one area, such as a river or a lake. All watersheds are connected to one another. You can think of a watershed like a bowl. Everything that is poured into the bowl collects on top and then inevitably goes onto the sides to collect at the bottom. So you can think of it as it starts at the top of the hill, goes onto the sides, ends up in the bottom, which would be the lakes and the streets.
Watersheds can include lakes, rivers, and groundwater, as well as home, school, parking lots, roads, and storm drains. Storm drains are found in paved areas like roads and parking lots, and they act like a drain in the bottom of the sink. The water it collects is from rain and from snowmelt, and it goes to surrounding creeks, lakes, and rivers. When water goes over the ground or paved surfaces, not only does it collect soil, but it also collects pollutants and carries it into the lakes and rivers. Even if you don't live on a lake or a river, you still live in a watershed. So everything is connected. So the water that is in your house will inevitably end up in one of those streams. Did you know that 30% of our municipal drinking water comes from a groundwater well? If you live in the Valley, Caperville, Dowling, Onaping, Garson, Falconbridge, Isilda, or Chelmsford, it's possible that your drinking water comes from a municipal well.
Wells are structures that are drilled deep underground. So what it is essentially it's a big metal straw that pulls up water from the underground water system called an aquifer.
When it rains or snows, water seeps into the ground and collects there in between gravel, sand, and rocks. The well, or the giant straw, sucks up that water to the surface into this building where it is treated and cleaned, where it can be sent to your homes. In Greater Sudbury, wells can be dug over 50 meters deep. That's basically 4 school buses stacked on top of each other.
You can't see groundwater doesn't mean it's not a part of our watershed. Since rain and snow seep into the ground, it refills the aquifers.
And because of this, it's important to remember that what we do at school or at home can affect our groundwater sources. It's important to do our part to keep them clean. Most of our municipal drinking water comes from surface water sources. Surface water is water that's located above the ground that you can see, including lakes, rivers, and creeks. Water from rain and snowmelt also contribute to some of this surface water supply.
In Greater Sudbury, Ramsey Lake, the Vermilion River, as well as the Watersheds River are all surface water sources that we use for drinking water.
To collect water from a lake, a big pipe runs from the shore out to the middle of the lake, so deep that we can't see it. This pipe acts like a big straw to draw in water, where it is then treated in this building, cleaned, and sent to your home so you can drink it from the tap.
If you live in New Sudbury, Watersheds, Coniston, or Marks v. Warren, it is likely that your drinking water comes from the Watersheds River.
If you live in Lively, not in Whitefish or Coppercliff, it's most likely that your water comes from the Vermilion River.
We know where our drinking water comes from. We need to do everything that we can to help keep it clean and make sure that there's enough for the future. You can start by keeping your homes and your schools free of garbage by always remembering to separate all your recyclables, your trash, and your organics. Don't waste water. When you're doing the dishes or brushing your teeth, always remember to turn the taps off.
It's important to remember that whether we are at home, at school, or in a park, that we are in a watershed. So it's important to keep our watersheds and our drinking water clean.
Now, let's think about the activities we do each day and how they might impact our drinking water. As we go through the activities, think about whether they might have a good or bad impact. Circle thumbs up or thumbs down and provide a reason why. Our first activity is picking up garbage. Do you think this will have a good or bad impact? This will have a good impact on our drinking water sources because picking up garbage at our homes or at school will make sure it doesn't get into our lakes and rivers where we get our drinking water. Our next activity is pouring grease down the sink. Do you think this would have a good or bad impact on our drinking water sources? This could have a bad impact on our drinking water sources because it can clog sewer pipes and cause sewage backups, which affects our water quality. Instead, pour grease from foods like bacon in a container and throw it out with your garbage once it's full. Our next activity is planting trees. Do you think this will have a good or bad impact? This will have a good impact on our drinking water sources because trees slow down rainwater and help it soak into the soil instead of washing right into a storm drain or nearby river or lake. Our next activity is letting the tap run. Do you think this would have a good or bad impact? This could have a bad impact on our drinking water sources because we want to make sure we only use water that we really need. Turning off the tap while we brush our teeth or while we wash dishes can help save water. Water is a precious resource that we don't want to waste. Our next activity is recycling and properly sorting our waste. Do you think this would have a good or bad impact? This would have a good impact on our drinking water sources because this keeps unnecessary waste out of our landfills and helps keep our water clean. Our next activity is pouring chemicals down a storm drain. Would this have a good or bad impact on our drinking water? This would have a bad impact on our drinking water sources because storm drains flow directly into a nearby river or lake. This means any chemicals you pour down a storm drain could end up in our drinking water source. Our last activity is picking up pet waste. Would this have a good or bad impact? This would have a good impact on our drinking water sources because disposing of our pet waste properly makes sure it doesn't end up in nearby rivers or lakes. We hope you enjoyed learning about where your drinking water comes from and how you can do your part to keep it clean. Bye!